We're going ahead and call the meeting to order. Everybody find their seats. Let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris, you want to call roll call?
Sure.
Chris, you want to go ahead and do roll call?
Yes. Heine.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Matlock.
Yes.
Kavan.
Yes.
And Hirschstone.
Yes.
All present. We have a quorum.
At this time, working as a pro temp, we're going to go ahead and do a reorganization of the zoning committee. Do we have any nominations for chairman of the board?
I make a motion, we take that one.
Any other nominations?
I'll second that. For Aaron.
Go ahead, close nominations, take a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Probably better go ahead and do a vice chairman as well, and me that I am unable to be here. Nominations for vice chairman.
Motion for Carl Heine.
Second. Any other nominations? All right, all in favor of Carl Heine, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, congratulations, Carl.
Appreciate it.
All right, now that we have a structure to move forward, we'll move on to the next agenda topic, announcement of the Open Meetings Act. See, they got it posted over by the door. Proof of publication, got it published here in the New York News Times.
March 23rd.
March 24th. Got a copy of that up here if anybody would like to take a look at that. Next is approval of the meeting minutes from our previous meeting, which there were none, correct?
The meetings are not present. We'll have to approve those at the next meeting.
All right. We will move on to our main topic of new business here, the discussion of potential changes regarding solar regulations here in York County. Is there any discussion from the board? I know once we move on to laying the ground rules here for how we move forward with public comment, one thing we have discussed, we'd like to have 3 minutes of discussion time when you guys come forward. Chris will go ahead and keep track of that time. And if we can keep everything structured and in order, we would greatly appreciate it. Everybody will have a chance to come to the mic, and we'll proceed from there. Any other board members have any other ground rules they'd like to lay out before we proceed? Just a reminder, here is the board for us tonight. We're here just to listen, take comment from everybody. We're not here to answer any questions, ask many questions. So we're just here to listen to what everybody has for the input for the regulations going forward.
And you also need to know we're being recorded and broadcasted tonight, so you guys will be popular, just like the rest of us, so.
And we would ask you to come forward, please state your name, your address, where you're from into the mic for us, please. And then, as I said, yeah, we'll move forward in 3 minutes for everybody from there. Anything else? All right, at this time, then, we will move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. We would ask, I know there's probably multiple, when you come to line up, let's keep somewhat of an orderly fashion if we can, have a couple people at a time, and we'll go from there.
I'll be first.
Go ahead.
And your name, sir?
Good evening, my name is Kevin Graves, K-E-V-I-N-G-R-A-V-E-S. I reside at 512 Road 23. Is this it?
I was gonna say, is that on?
All right,
512 Road 23, Bradshaw is where I reside, and that is in York County. I'm not a lobbyist paid or otherwise, and I'm not here today on behalf of any person other than myself. And the research done for this is mine and mine alone.
sorry.
My position is that the county does not need to change any zoning for solar installations of this magnitude, because in the current zoning, they're not allowed, and they are not allowable use or as a conditional use, and the conditional permitting of a solar project of this scope would be in violation of section 501.6, number 13, which defines allowable conditional uses in the general agricultural district that are not specifically addressed. Section 501.06 states, other uses determined by the County Board of Commissioners to be comparable with other uses permitted as conditional uses in the district, compatible with the uses permitted in the district, and consistent with the intent of the district. A 2,500 acre solar array is absolutely not consistent with the intent of the district. And I won't recite the entire intent, but it says in part, the general agricultural district is for the perpetuation, sustainability, and economic development of agriculture. Using figures from Iowa State in their annual estimated cost of crop production report for 2022, here are some figures of the money that would cease flowing into the economy of York County if 2,500 acres were taken out of production. 25 acres of corn producing 200 bushel per acre. Input cost, seed and chemicals for that would be approximately $1,133,000, and harvest cost about $265,000. I have listed all the associated costs, but the bottom line, according to the report, the cost per bushel to produce 200 bushels per acre is about $465 per bushel, and that translates to $2,325,000. And so if you divide that the other way, take that $2 million, divide it by 2,500, that gives you at the very least $930 less per acre that's going into the agricultural economy of York County. And this report was done for Iowa, where strangely it rains. No irrigation costs are included in this. Thus, even more money taken from the local economy. Potentially 15 center pivots taken out of commission. No pivot repairs being done, no engines being overhauled, no fuel being purchased, no insurance being purchased, no tires purchased or repaired. Virtually every business in this county is somehow tied to the ag economy, and every acre taken out of production affects not only the businesses, but the people that they employ.
And that is your time, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. Probably do give them a 30-second notice.
Yeah, I can do that.
Hi guys, first of all, thank you for having us, let's talk. My name is Brian Soka, I live on 1006 Road 4, right on the Blacktop west of, Oakville. I'll be right in the middle of this project, so kind of hits home. First, how does this project affect me and my family personally? Location will surround my property for sure at 3 sides with potential of 4 sides. I will not be able to look at anything other than solar panel and possibly a car going by. What I've seen proposed so far, there will be chain link fence surrounding this project and possibly some sort of privacy wall or border is what's suggested for my dwelling. The thing is, when I purchased this property, my only thought was, am I gonna look at corn or beans around me? I mean, I purchased to be in the country, to be a rural area, not to see this. And I'm sure anybody that lives in the country understands that. This is where it gets hard for me. I understand that the boundary property is not owned by me, and the landowner has the right to, do with his property as he fits, or feels fit. But my concern is if this directly affects the value and the aesthetics of my property, and neighboring properties, should that be taken into consideration? To touch on this a little further, in a previous meeting with EDF, there was a landowner that stated, if you don't like it, go ahead and you can rent from now on or sell and move. Well, to that I'd say I did move. I moved to McCool Junction for the neighborhood, the neighbors, along with close-knit community. I lived in the same residence for 16 years now. I met a lot of friends, had a lot of acquaintances. I do not feel like moving. My son knows nothing but our house is a home. I do not want to move and also lose the relationships we've developed. I feel this project has already driven a wedge between a large part of this community, which is probably one of the worst things that has happened. After that, that's probably my biggest concern is the wedge it draws, or it's driven between our community already. So hopefully we can do something to curb that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Gary Carnop, 1008 Road 3, McCool Junction. I'll have solar panels right to the west of me, about surrounding me. I have a cattle feed yard. If I was to expand my feed yard, first I'd have to go to the zoning board. Then I'd have to ask my neighbors if it'd be all right if I expanded. And then it'd probably go before the commissioners yet besides. And here we have this solar outfit coming in, unannounced, with driving steel pilings in the ground. That made an industrial site out of it, in my opinion. And what's that do to me for my feed yard? What does that do for heat coming across 2,500 acres right in this? If it's prevailing winds around the southwest in the summer, you get a 105-degree day. If it just raises 5-10 degrees, coming off across those fans, I'm out of business. And the whole thing just really smelled like it coming in here unannounced and just taking over. And agriculture just cannot compete with industry. They've shown that with the money that they came out with to get this land. Also, a thing that bothers me is foreign ownership of land is something that states have really fought against. And here you have this outfit's financed through France, something like that. They know they can't buy ground here, so they lease it for 35 years. Well, people they lease it from are going to be long dead. And when that lease runs up, you know they'll own the ground. And I think that's the whole intent. Also, there's one other thing that bothers me. Why would they come with solar panels right on top of agriculture producing ground like this? And I thought, came to me, what about that water that's underneath it? The old aquifer is the biggest water system in the country for irrigation. And the thought occurred to me, maybe they're going to pipe that water to Lincoln and Omaha and Seward where they're really water short areas. And who knows? But that thought here in my mind because they will have control of the water. They're on at least
30 seconds, sir.
okay.
Eddie Sheffield, I am the president of the community club in McCool Junction. I also work for Cradle Enterprises in York, Nebraska. And I'm also in the volunteer fire department of McCool Junction. My concern here today is I had a customer walk into our shop this morning. And his words were, we're building a new house. Our farm is directly related to the solar panel farm. We're for it, and you have voiced against it. I haven't voiced anything one way or the other. Because where I live in McCool Junction, if you climb to the tallest point of the highest tree in my yard, I can't see the solar farm. So I don't give two shits how it goes. But I'm involved in our community. I am involved in saving people's lives, protecting people's property, and I work in an HVAC business that is a strong company in the area. And what I heard from our customer was, we're not gonna use you because of your opinion. I don't have an opinion, but I know that EDF shared the fact that the community club, the fire department did not take money from this to that customer. And quite frankly, it pisses me off because that's my livelihood. I provide heat and air, I provide safety, and I provide community support in a small town community. And for me to come into work this morning at 8:30 and a customer tell me that I was not given a job, I wasn't even given a chance to bid, because somebody from EDF shared that the community club and the fire department did not accept monetary donations from a company who's not even there yet, other than renting a piece of property out at the Speedway. Quite frankly, that pisses me off, because I moved to McCool Junction from small town Mississippi to small town Nebraska. I love what I do, I love the people that I support, and it's not right, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna sit here and watch it split up a community based on a bunch of whether solar panels go in or not. I don't care. But when y'all start affecting my business and the people that I support in McCool Junction and the people that I go out and fight, that I give my life for, and that a lot of these firefighters give their life for, it pisses me off.
Gene Jackson, 216 Road K, Cool Junction. Follow up on Gary said here, I laid those sheets out there and he listed all of the easements that have been signed by EDF going clear back to October of 2020.
Can you speak
Every
to
one
the
of them-
microphone, can't hear you.
Every one of them gives EDF the right to drill a well on those easements. There are easements there, agreements, purchase agreements, that this energy development of France will own farm ground in those maps that I showed you. They're listed on those easements on the backside. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Coleman Coxwell. I live on 1202 Road 3, McCool Junction. So, my wife and I grew up in McCool, and kind of like the other McCool residents, I'm concerned about how it's splitting the community. I also raised questions about why a foreign company wants to come into small town Nebraska and take up agricultural farm ground that everybody has built their livelihood on around the area. And I wonder about the longevity of these solar panels. I mean, comparatively, it's a pretty new natural resource. We don't know the chemicals that go into it, and we don't know, you know, what happens after those go bad. So my wife and I lived in Casper, Wyoming for, like close to 3 years. And the wind turbines, Casper was one of the only places that would dump these wind turbines because they had tons of open ground and you can't get rid of them. You bury them and they last forever. So what happens when these solar panels go bad and we have to get rid of them? I mean, do they come here to the dump and get buried and then have that chemical waste seep into our, you know, our natural resource of water? One of the most valuable resources that we have. And also with that, are they gonna be taking, you know, our water in the McCool and York County area to cool these solar panels as they overheat, or, you know, the land involved with that? And also, I know Iowa kind of put up a bunch of them, and there's videos and it kind of looks like a desert with just solar panels. I mean, they say they're gonna come in and take care of all this stuff, but how much do you really trust a $1 billion company to come in and do what they're gonna say? I mean, is it gonna turn into a bunch of weeds that spread all across and all of a sudden become, you know, resistant to the chemicals that we have? Is it gonna blow dirt just like crazy? What kind of upkeep are they gonna do around the area? If they have the fences up, are they just gonna turn into, you know, trash to where they're full of trash and corn cobs and husks, and, you know, they build them and just forget about them? That's one of my biggest concerns too with that.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Becky Soga. I live at 1006 Road 4. I'm here to talk about the setbacks. If you look at this map, it shows our acreage that could potentially be surrounded on 4 sides by solar panels. There was a proposal that said something about having a 100-foot setback, which, if you look at the first circle, that if you go from 100 feet from our outside wall, it only goes halfway through our property. There was another one that was a 300-foot suggestion, and that's the second circle, and that goes right to the edge of our property line. So does that mean that the solar panels, if they go at 300 feet, does that mean that the solar panels go right next to our property line? To me, that's not acceptable. We propose that the setbacks be at least 1,320 feet, which is a quarter mile from the wall of the house on any non-participating dwelling. We didn't move to the country to be suffocated by solar panels. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Larry Bloom from McCool Junction, Nebraska. And I guess I'm not real happy about having to take off work to come here to defend my rights on ground that I own. I don't see how anybody else has any rights to my ground. I don't claim rights to their ground. I should be able to do whatever I want to do with it. You guys do have to set zoning for solar panels, I understand that. And I would want you to be fair with these people, like the two folks that just said, and Nolan's, and who was the other one I seen there? There was 3 of them there, that actually have the solar panels on the farm where their site is. I think you should take that into consideration, be fair with both sides on that. make it right. I think you need to, kind of clarify some of your, wording on your zoning, you know, about, where you're, just like she had a question there. Are you talking about the boundary line? I don't think you are, but you need to clarify that. There needs to be some work done there so that everybody understands what's going on, so we're not gonna be leaving loopholes or anything like that. I also hated that the community is divided on it, but I have no, you know, nobody's offered to bring me a check for my grant. Well, if you don't wanna buy it, you don't control it. It's mine, I pay the taxes on it, I keep my properties very neat. They're not full of weeds, not full of volunteer trees. I mean, not on my side of the fence, but some right on the other side, not on my side, you're not gonna find one volunteer tree. We've taken care of blooms and taken care of our ground all these years, and that isn't gonna change any. As far as getting back to Mr. Cogswell on the weeds and everything, I have seen these solar farms. I've seen one between St. Louis and Kansas City. It was set up just like what these guys were talking about. They're talking that you could either run sheep in there, or they will hire, there would be a good business for somebody. You could go buy probably the best equipment you wanted to buy and hire help and mow these things. And you could see the mower tracks going down through this thing, and it was nice and neat. There was no weeds or anything. It looked beautiful, just like it's supposed to be. So I know there's a lot of questions. People can say things, do they follow through and keep stuff up like they would? They're doing it on my ground because anybody knows how meticulous I am. I'll put up that shit. It's either gonna be taken care of or they're getting the axe.
30 seconds, sir.
Okay, well, I don't know if I got too much more to say. I pretty well said it, but yes, no, I'm not gonna have unsightly ground. That's out of the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we've got a brief break. We did receive letters from, we did receive letters from Joanne Jackson and James Jackson in opposition to solar regulations. Those have been passed out to the board.
My name is Brian Median. I live at 301 Road 24, which is way out in the northwest corner of the county. I'd like to go back and reemphasize the question of why are we talking about changing the zoning? The zoning is in place to keep the ag land producing crops. And I just don't quite understand why a foreign corporation can come in here, sign all these easements, promise all this money, and now we're gonna rewrite the zoning because they jumped the gun. If the board agrees to go ahead with the project, it can be handled with a conditional use permit. Seems to make a lot more sense than opening up the entire county for projects like this. So let's do the right thing.
Gentlemen, Mr. Carl, got about half my thunder, what I was gonna talk on, but I guess I'll just kind of reiterate it. Ken Real, our family business is 201 Rodell. Parents live, we're right at the epicenter of this thing. I've spent all my adult life farming and feeding cattle underneath the NDVD's power lines, and I've worked with them over the years with, every time the lines go down, we rent on yards, get the poles back up, and being around the electrical grid has just been a lifestyle for me growing up. And we obviously feed cattle there. That's the top of my concerns also, like Gary, is the heat that's created from these massive solar projects that we've been told it's only 2 to 3 degrees. And I did a little more research on that, and it is correct, that's Celsius, 2 to 3 degrees. And it's about 7.2 degrees Fahrenheit. So basically in our world, if we can have a heat index of 102, which happens a lot, in this part of the world, the difference between 102 of having hot cattle and 109 is dead cattle. And we've been through a couple of events just like that, and we're not allowed the luxury of massive government subsidies to try to make a living in. They got a program that will give us about $800 a head, which is about 25% of the recovery cost of a steer if we have dead cattle. So the heat is definitely, the island effect is a tremendous concern. So I was gonna have some research done from some of my resources that didn't get done out of Texas A&M. And they're very familiar with cattle feeding and solar panels. And the first thing when I called them, and we visited these folks, and they said, number one, what in the hell are they doing with solar panels in the middle of irrigated ag country? And number two, why the hell would they do it around cattle feeding operations or any kind of livestock? They've got both down there, but they're nowhere close to each other. And, you know, and I appreciate a couple of comments before. I really don't understand why we have to reopen the zoning, but if we did, would it have to be something like the compliance work that we have to deal with in animals? We've got, you know, we can keep it under 300 heads, you can get along pretty well with your local county commissioners and zoning, and if you get to 3 to 999 animal feeding operation, you have to go get permitting from the state. And again, we don't have the choice what we want to do with our own ground. We have to ask permission for commercial activity. And that's exactly what this project is.
30 seconds.
Sir.
Daryl, I am from Nebraska. I come on this a little different. I'm by EDF's wind farm. And I can tell you what kind of neighbors they will be. EDF came in 2019 and have never followed the contracts they have with the landowners. And when they are told what they need to do to make that up, they said, you didn't expect us to follow the contract, did you? We are still working on crop damage from 2020, 2021, and 2022. They went on one guy's ground and stole 160 yards of topsoil with the corn growing in it. And they would take care of that last fall is what the landowner was told. And then they came back and said, no, we won't. We need you to sign a release before we'll do anything. What good's a release? You know, if you release them. Landowners talked about the placement of roads, and they agreed to it. And then as soon as the landowners turned their back, the roads were put in a totally different spot. And if you complained, you were told, take us to court. We got more money and lawyers than you got, we can break you before we pay you. In the first year of operation, all ground had 2 liens put on it. The second one was over 36 million. Landowners are told to call an 844 number with their problems. But if you get an answer, you never get a response. And have been told, well, if landowners quit calling, you know, if we don't answer them, don't quit calling, we don't have to worry about it. We've got ground that's full of weeds, they won't spray, which is in the contract, they ignore it. They have blocked roads with heavy equipment. These are major gravel roads to little towns like Tobias, and they sat there for over a week. Trespassing on landowner's ground. Now they want the landowner that they trespassed on and damaged his ground to sign a release before they'll do anything. A landowner that sold ground in 2019 for their building just now got paid within the last 6 weeks. Without seeing their contract, I know most solar contracts, you only get paid on the ground where the solar panels are. The rest of the ground is released and you will be farming that around it. Thank you.
My name is Brooklyn Swantek Cogswell. I reside at 1202 Road 3, McCool Junction, just a mile southwest. My husband and I, like he said, just recently moved back to the land we love from Casper, Wyoming. While this solar project may be an opportunity to address the growing global energy demand and reduce the negative impact of harmful chemicals in our local water supply, it's not the best option for McCool Junction and its people. McCool Junction is home to some of the most productive and fertile soil in the world. Our area farmers help make the state of Nebraska a national leader in soybean, corn, grain sorghum, wheat, beef, and pork production. The land is used to help meet the growing global food demand. This project raises important questions and concerns for renewable energy companies to capitalize on financial incentives. This isn't just a few solar panels going up. It's an industrial scale size solar field. Why sacrifice the land that is absolutely necessary to help feed our nation when these panels could be placed elsewhere? Casper, Wyoming, for example. It's the perfect place for these panels. The land is barren and the sun is plentiful. Why sacrifice our land? Other important concerns come to mind. Where and how will these toxic panels be disposed of once out of commission? What will they do with rights to our local water supply? What will happen when wildlife habitat is removed and their movement is restricted? What happens when and if these subsidies end and projects are sold to another foreign company? How will neighboring properties and their value be affected? And most importantly, how will this project impact the land and its topsoil for future agricultural production? Most of you are in here are lucky because you won't be alive 30 years from now when these projects are ending. It's our generation, your children and grandchildren, and the young families who live in our county that will be using the land to make a living. The future depends on the choices we make today.
Adam, you were the other one I couldn't think of, on the building sites, you were the other one, sorry.
Adam Beck, 215 Rhode I am here tonight with some of our other firemen from the McCool Junction Fire District. And I just have a couple comments that I would like to have noted for your consideration when you're going through the process ahead of you. Some things that we're concerned about as far as safety for us, that we just want to make sure are addressed is if the facilities are constructed, making sure we have proper entry and egress points to get in and out of these sites. The one thing that will change dramatically for us is with the removal of irrigation and changing the native vegetation type. We're going to be changing the fire fuel load, and by reducing irrigation, we're going to also be adjusting the fuel and moisture contents as well. typically right now in a field fire situation, we've got a lot of open country to work with, and we can also employ tractors and discs when necessary. If we're dealing with a fire in a solar facility, we might not have that luxury or the room or capability. And if we have shielding and vegetation around it, it could make entry and egress a major safety concern. You get a grass fire moving quickly, can become a dangerous situation fairly quick. So those are some things that we would like to have duly noted be addressed. Proper entry, egress, water, and a good fire mitigation plan. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Dana Jackson. I live on a farm with my husband, generations. I believe you may, most of you be farmers. Farmers are stewards of the land, every last one of them. They know what's right for the farm and they take care of it with all the regulations that they have to deal with. But they love the land and they will forever take care of it. I read in Farm Magazine today that there are like 9,000 people in Nebraska and has been in their family for 19 years. I think that is something to say for Nebraska. My question is, do you believe in climate change? Who created this earth? Somebody much greater than we, and we have the responsibility to take care of it. Thank you.
Anybody else like to make comments at this time? I will. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time this evening. My name is Lee Greenwald. I'm with Bear Home Law Firm in Omaha and Lincoln, and we represent EDF and other solar developers, frankly, who are interested in the outcome of your county and other counties. I think I'm the least likely person to get the applause here tonight, but I'm going to try to add a little balance to the conversation. I believe you have in front of you a list of the landowners who have signed on this project. One gentleman handed that in. Renewable energy developers do not have the power of eminent domain. So no project improvement can be built on any property where there's not a voluntary landowner participating below the proposed project. I wish I had time in 3 minutes to refute kind of some of the things that we've heard about the leases. No one's drilling for oil, nor could they. I don't even know what your regulations are on drilling for oil. Solar panels do not use water. They do not connect to water supplies. There are a number of issues that I'd be happy to talk through with anyone here on this panel. That said, I do want to highlight what one of our landowners spoke about earlier tonight. There are private property rights on both sides. And those landowners have the right to derive maximum benefit from their property. Some of them will use it in the form of retirement funds. Some will use solar panels on one parcel to pay for an ag operation on another parcel. And some of them will use it to keep land in the family if a generation doesn't want to farm. There's a number of unique reasons why a landowner might decide to take their land out of production or to use it for solar energy development. And so I'd ask this panel to consider the rights of those private landowners. Obviously, they're subject to a lot of scrutiny in the community, and they typically rely on the developer and people like myself to speak for them and speak for the project. One thing I also want to emphasize is that this project that everyone's talking about tonight is not really the subject of this discussion. The subject is your countywide zoning regulations. And so if you pass reasonable zoning regulations They allow you to simply evaluate applications on a case-by-case basis and determine if they are appropriate for your county. The limit on solar projects is still 0 if you adopt these solar regulations, right? Because they're subject to a conditional use permit. So the idea that there's gonna be unbridled solar development and it's gonna cover all of these acres, well, that's still up to you. But what I'd say is don't be scared. I know the technology is new, it's different. There's clearly a lot of misinformation out there and things that we could answer for, that we could educate on.
30
but
seconds.
That the passage of reasonable regulations allows you to explore economic benefits like those which we submitted in the letter to you a couple of weeks ago, allows you to explore applications on a case-by-case basis, and allows you to take into consideration the concerns of those neighboring landowners too. Maybe you do make a special setback for this gentleman's land, but you do that in the conditional use permit process. Designing your countywide regulations around a proposed project is not the best practice, and will leave you with regulations that are far more restrictive than those of the state, and any cost opportunities here in your county that aren't, that don't frustrate anyone that could be out there. So, let us please participate in this process. Let us educate you on any questions that you may have, and please consider reasonable regulations that allow you to consider various applications. Thank you. I also, if I could, I have a couple letters of support I'd like to hand you. Oh, sorry.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Hunter Trainer. I am the second least likely of applause in the room tonight. I'm an attorney with the Remble Leckie Law Firm in Lincoln, here on behalf of our Horses Count, who are a collection of landowners here in York County. To the points just previously made by the most recent speaker and attorney, I certainly agree with this point that in this regulation process, and when you're setting the parameters for what the conditional use permit would look like, I think on behalf of my clients, I would certainly implore you to keep a power in the conditional use permit process for you all to set reasonable parameters on an application by application basis. I think that's certainly a good idea. It gives you and the county commissioners in the future the flexibility to look at applications on a case-by-case basis and determine whether they're appropriate for that particular area. That process and that case-by-case application is down the road. In other words, it is after the proposed regulations that we're discussing tonight and in the future are in place. So on the point of those proposed regulations that set the bumpers for what a conditional use permit and its application should include, my only comment is this. This is a local process, and you all are tasked and entrusted and empowered to act on behalf of York County landowners, your neighbors, to act in the best interest of public health, your neighbors' safety, and your community members' welfare. And so long as the regulations that you pass have a reasonable relationship to those three things, public health, safety, and welfare, they pass muster, and it's within your power as local leaders to do so. And so my only thing that I'll leave you with is you're going to hear a lot of testimony in the next couple months from community members who are concerned about public health, safety, and their welfare. And I just want you all and the county commissioners that come out to you to feel empowered to pass regulations that are reasonable and make sense specifically for York County. And once those regulations are passed, and conditional use permit applications are submitted, you certainly retain the right to look at applications on a case-by-case basis and exercise your judgment. Good luck, and thank you for doing what you're doing, hearing concerns, and acting ultimately in the best interest of your neighbors. Appreciate your time.
So if you can't hear this, it's because you're sleeping. And also, to the audience out here, I would appreciate afterwards, whether you want to or not, I appreciate no applause. In my opinion, that's not what this meeting was about. What do you call it, forgotten school, a cheerleader thing for one way or the other. It's to listen to everybody and to everybody have an opinion. And that's all I'm gonna do is give an opinion, and I would rather that nobody fight. All right, if I understand this right, you guys have this, well, every so often.
Can you state your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry. Willard Peterson, 514 Road 13, Bradshaw. I couldn't tell you what the real deal is, but anyway, I'm from Bradshaw. Anyway, I understand you guys are in this process because every so many years, the zoning and stuff like that should be looked at and should be redone. I think that's the main reason that you're in this process now. And the reason that a couple of topics came up is because one we're talking about tonight, another one that I won't mention that'll be coming up. A lot of that is because we haven't had those issues in the county or those types of things brought forward in the county anymore. And that's the problem with zoning or variance regulations, is that there's stuff gonna happen in the next 50 years that we couldn't possibly dream about right now, even if you wanted to. And so therefore you have to look at new things coming up, new things, and so good luck. You know, but it is something to really consider, and both, if you want to say sides, both sides agree with that. Both sides agree that there ought to be somewhere, you know, some kind of regulations that work. And so I would encourage you to think about that as you're doing this. As far as things staying the same, there's a man, I believe his last name was Miller, years and years ago, bought a sand pit right on the west side of York, and he bought that because there was no way to get to it but him. Well, that happened to got split in half by the bypass going around York. Now you can see his house, his son's house, everybody else's house. He was pretty much guaranteed that that would never happen. Well, nobody knew then. And the one last thing I want to say, the farmstead that I live on now was started by the Petersons in 1886. Yeah, that house was one of the very last ones in the country hooked to the REA, because my great-grandfather said, these Delco light plants are plenty good, and them wires are stringing through the country, they're never gonna last. And so, nobody knows what's gonna happen or whatever. And that's why your job's pretty much impossible, because you're trying to write stuff. You know, you're trying to write stuff that fix, you know, as many things as you can. But just think about that, and think about, again, the health and safety of the, whatever this lawyer said. And
That's your time, Lord.
because it's true. I never talk over time. Oh, thank you for my thought.
name's Paul Weiss, 1216 Pool Junction. I guess I'm the epicenter of this whole deal. My ground is where the substation is at that they're going to tap into. As far as safety, we talked about safety. I'm a member of the NRD board, and what I'm going to tell you is my opinion, not the board. We're being told by the university that our groundwater here is high in nitrates. We have one of the highest, now this is me, we have one of the highest rates of pediatric cancers in the United States right here. I'm not gonna argue that fact, that's coming from the university, and that's my opinion. That's what we hear, but I can't represent the board. And as far as chemicals, talk about safety. If anybody'd be glad, we're more than happy to have them come to an NRD meeting because they're screaming about the chemicals that are in the water. Well, here's 1,200 acres or 2,000 that you're not gonna inject chemicals into the water through nitrate or through fertilizer or things like that. You know, there's people that my parents wanted to build a house west of McCool. There's a feedlot there. We never said anything. I mean, it's Mr. Reels, and I can care less if he raises cattle there, but the smell and the flies were across the road was not conducive to a house. But I'm not gonna stand before a board and I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not gonna get into a fight with any of these people. It's just the way it is. I do say like Larry, it's my ground. Well, I'll take it back. My dad's ground, he got it bought, he gave it to me. And I'm thinking of my kids. Because I've got 3 kids that would definitely use the money from this. It's all about money for me, as far as I'm concerned. Because I'm not a rich person. So, and if I'm dead in 10 years, that's great. Because the kids, and as far as the contracts them not honoring them, I can't say that they're not gonna honor them. I signed it, but now.
30 seconds.
Okay, I signed it, but you have to trust somebody. Now, maybe this gentleman's right, they are just horrible. I don't know, but until they put it on mine, I don't know. I know what I signed. And there's nothing to mind about drilling a well. They're not gonna use my water, I'm gonna cap my well. One of the board members at the NRD, then somebody came up to him and said, well, we heard they're gonna take that water, they're gonna ship it. No, I don't know where they hear this, but it's not true. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I don't have any more comments, but I do have these contracts. One of them is purchase lease, one of them is the lease for the solar panel, and it states on there that they can drill a well. Only have a copy of each. But you look at it, I think the deal is, it's marked, it's on the second page. This is the purchase.
Last call for any additional comments.
I don't need another 3 minutes, but if that's true, I'm not saying Gene's not right, but I would like somebody from EDF to stand up and ask, is that true? Can you drill a well on my ground and use that water? I didn't see it. No, I didn't say, I'm looking at EDF, I want to know.
Oh, I see.
Hi folks, I'm Evan Mount, I live in Houston, Texas. I work for ABF Renewables. So it is true that in some of our contracts, we have the right to drill a water well, and that's generally because we try to, during the construction phase, we're there to stabilize the soil, grasses, as well as keep dust levels low, which was actually a concern brought up by somebody during this meeting. However, I don't believe we have any rights to truck water away. You can certainly put in zoning to not allow water to be trucked away. We've never done it on any other sites. And we have sites throughout very water important areas in western states. But yeah, certainly within your power to make a zoning rule against that, if that protects y'all. But yeah, we have no intention of drilling water to truck it out or anything like that, just to stabilize soils, keep dust levels low. That's about it. Thank you.
I wanted to speak up on my behalf. That was brought up about the wells. I have 3 wells. They're all along the road.
Up here to the microphone.
Oh, well, getting back to the water thing, I guess that was brought up. I have 3 wells right along the road. And they told me, well, they probably would only be using one and it would only be during construction. And basically they get like the grass and go. So whatever they needed on for water during construction was all it was supposed to be about. They wouldn't probably be using the other 2 at all. So, and would I cap them? Probably not. I would just as soon pay the irrigated tax on it, on my land. Because whether I would even be, I wouldn't be here, but whether whoever farms it for 30, 40 years can even irrigate it, I have no idea. But it, to me, would be a good idea to pay the irrigated tax in case if they couldn't water it again. But in getting to the part somehow, somebody brought it up, your best farm ground, and there's those of you guys that have developed ground know that your best ground is where the grass has been. If you had grass for somewhere for 30, 40 years, it'll yield outstanding. Not where Carl and I push it down, but where we didn't and you do the grass, it's fantastic for several years. That's all.
My name's Dean Bloom, I live at 418 Road S. McCool. I've been listening to this about our ground, we pay the taxes, we can do what we want to with it. As far as I'm concerned, that's a bunch of bull. If you're gonna ruin their neighbor's life and the value of their property, that's not right. You don't have the right to do that. I've got a granddaughter and her husband bought ground, what's gonna be right across the road from this. They've got 2 little kids. They borrowed a lot of money. They're both working, making monthly payments. So what, everybody just gives them a finger and they're on their own? It ain't right. You can't, just because you own ground, you can't do something with it to destroy your neighbor's life. They probably got a 20, 30-year contract. They're gonna be making payments on this. What's it gonna be worth? Is it even gonna be healthy to live there? If the temperature's hotter there, they may not even be able to grow a garden. What's it gonna do to their little kids playing out in the yard? This, I own it, I pay the taxes, I can do what I want to with it. That's a bunch of bull. Thank you.
Well, if there's no further comments at this time, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing section of the meeting. At this time, I guess, is there any announcements, Chris, or anybody have anything?
Just to discuss next steps with the individuals out here.
Okay. And help me along the way here as we go. So our next steps will be, we will take all comments and recommendations into consideration as we work forward, with what we draft and what that might look like. I know myself and a lot of the boards, we've started into this, and the comprehensive plan is whatever it is put together. We do not want to have anything that's piecemeal. It's something that is very well put together, and has constructive, whether it be from commissioning, the setbacks, whatever else. So we're definitely gonna put a lot of work into that. Once we have those somewhat drafted together, we will then once again have another public hearing, correct?
Correct.
So those will be released to everybody to see what those potentially look like, and then we can take feedback once again, as we start to work through that process.
I want, and I think these people will be the same way. Don't be screwing around. Let's get this over with as fast as you can. I mean, why have all the drama?
I think at
if
this
you guys can get it done in a month, get it done, so we can all get back together, or we don't, you know, let's not drag this out another year. Let's get it done. But I know you need to do it right.
It's gonna take time for us to put it together correctly. By the time we have our meetings together, draft it, have the public hearings, and then the approval of the county board. Talking to other counties that have been doing this, I mean, it takes time.
Well, that's fine, but don't get it as soon as you can, so the community can get some semblance of getting back together again. That's all I'd say.
Definitely understand that. We can go ahead and set the next public meeting.
Up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Everybody, I know we're gonna be coming into planting season here. Monday nights work best.
Randy, do you know, is this wireless?
Yeah, you can take it.
Also, got the first one.
How do you guys feel about getting something drafted and back to public meeting? Would April 17th work?
Have it drafted by then.
That's what I'm.
That's pretty aggressive.
3 weeks.
I'm open to opinion, whatever everybody thinks.
Everybody can have their due diligence done. We'd have to meet, see your next Monday, is it 7th, or what, 3rd?
The 3rd.
Get the 3rd.
Actually, 4 weeks planning season, that's gonna push it.
I guess we just have to throw some dates out there and see who can do what.
Will the 24th work? It's another week. Okay.
That's fine.
I'll do that.
Yeah, I don't see that.
All right.
I think we're doing a workshop for ourselves.
In between.
In between them.
Because this being public.
Okay.
I'm on board.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll try and reserve the Holtus again. But we'll have to look for publications for exactly where it'll be, because I can't guarantee the Holtus will be available, but we'll find a location and then that'll be published.
That'll work. All right. If that's the case, then we will proceed upon the location of April 24th, same time, 6 o'clock. All right.
And again, we'll do our best to have it here if we can.
Okay. Any final comments from the board? Good.
We'll just.
Then make a motion. Make a motion. Second? Just a second, that's, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and,
Thank you.